Good morning, Bitcoin. We're still live from the Baltic Honey Badger Conference in Riga. We're joined by Giorgio from Anubis. How's it going, Giorgio?
I'm good, buddy. I'm good. How are you today?
I'm doing great. It's a great conference, and we're having fun in the cloakroom now that we're set up here. It's a great place for interviews, slightly better than the restroom that Bitcoin Uncensored once used. But what do you guys do at Anubis? I know you work out of England, and what do you guys do?
So Numis is an FCA-regulated EMI, electronic money institution. It has a consumer credit license as well. I think it's one of the only EMIs in Europe that has this, and also is a Visa MasterCard issuer. So again, we're helping businesses in the blockchain space that are legitimate and real. It's Numis' own decision to work with businesses in this space, and again, you know, my purpose is obviously driving this ecosystem forward, and you know, just following my heart, which has brought me into Bitcoin, which made me fall in love with economics and finance and the rest of it, and then found the way to drive again the ecosystem forward. That was it.
So now we've all heard stories about how hard it is for a Bitcoin company to get a bank account, and maybe things are going good and then they cancel you, and then you're going good and they cancel you. So you guys help solve that problem.
Yeah, we do. As long as the businesses are legitimate and they're following the rules, the KYC and AML needs to be done to perfection. The EMI needs to have oversight over their KYC and AML policies, and making sure that they comply with the regulation. Otherwise, they can't play, unfortunately.
And so you work with a lot of legitimate businesses in this space, like exchanges, other large operators like that, who definitely have a need of a bank account, and then they would use your services to get it.
Correct. And we've also employed something called a blockchain monitoring policy, which is, again, tracking, making sure that the addresses that exchanges and all these businesses are working with are legitimate. They're not dark web related. They're not dealing with criminals. So it's about dealing with real businesses that are trying their best to cater for real people in this current ecosystem.
So you mentioned that you work with real business, and that's of course really valuable. But do you see, or how do you see that even good businesses that really do provide a valid service for customers, that they still have, or are they restrained by this regulation, and how does that affect the market?
Absolutely not. I don't think anybody's restrained. I think even in the UK, I see the Bank of England as being positive towards the blockchain space and the crypto space. If anything, they've got a lot of programs that they're running, that they're studying the space and seeing how, you know, digital cash would be effective in an economy, and if it's a better system than the current system. So they're consistently looking at this. I would say where we have a problem is the retail banks don't want to be associated due to the fact that they find the nature of this business high risk, so they steer away from it. But then at the same time, these retail banks are laundering money for every cartel on the planet. So, you know,
they had that thing where they designed their night deposit boxes to be the same shape and size as the briefcase that they would fill the money with. It's pretty bad out there. And again, yeah, they'll work with any gangster on the planet, but none of the Bitcoiners.
There you go. And I can see where they're coming from as well, though. Some of the Bitcoiners have always come with this FUCK, the banks kind of thing, attitude, which would make a business think, you know what, if you're going to screw with us, then let's screw with you too. So government would say, hey guys, give these guys banking facilities, they need it. And then the banks would say, no, we're not going to, because we feel we don't have to do what you ask us to do. It's our business. It's not your business. Your government, you can tell us what to do, but you can't enforce that at this moment in time, unless something comes in where it's enforced that they have to give the banking facilities to these businesses.
Yes, and you spoke about the Know Your Customer regulation, and of course Know Your Customer is needed in a debt-based fiat system where you have counterparty risk. However, the beauty of Bitcoin is that it is a counterparty risk-free asset. You do not have to trust, you can always verify. So from that sense, you no longer need Know Your Customer. So how do you think that this old regulation applies to this new money?
That's a good point and a valid argument, but the way I see it, personally, I'm trying to connect these two spaces so everybody can work happily together. I'm not pro Bitcoin. I'm not a Bitcoin maximalist, and I'm not entirely fond of the traditional systems. But if we can all work together to create something that makes for a better economy for our society and human beings going forward into the future for our children, and leave a legacy that has created this better system, then we're in a great place.
Now, I know you have an interesting background. How did you get into Bitcoin?
Right. So one of my best friends, Charlie Cox, he was a super geek, and he tried to get me involved when I was still fighting professionally. So I fought, God, in my 20s and 30s, I was a professional mixed martial artist. If my fights are now on UFC Fight Pass, if you go, you'll see some of them. I had 2 belts in 2 different weight divisions, and again, it was something that I was in love with. It was martial arts, and Charlie tried to convince me to come out of, as I was coming towards the end of my career, get involved in Bitcoin, and I just completely blew him out.
That's what we all do at the beginning. Nobody gets it right. We're talking to the smartest people around here, and they're like, I heard about it and I ignored it for 2 years, and they begged me, and then we get in later though, right? Yeah.
Exactly. And then eventually I started studying myself and thought, hang on a minute, there's some substance here, and just kept digging deeper and deeper until I started falling in love with the whole Bitcoin ecosystem. And then Ethereum came along, and then the smart contracts, and then the ICO craze, and it just kept getting more and more exciting, and I just kept falling more and more in love with it.
Do you think there's room for a combination and an involvement of Bitcoin in fighting? I know there's been some like purses that were in Bitcoin, and maybe you'd prefer to be paid in Bitcoin after you win or lose or something like that. Is there a way you could see them together?
Right now, I've thought about this. That's a very good point, and I've thought about it many times on how we could connect that whole MMA and the fighting ecosystem with Bitcoin, and I've struggled to see a solid connection. I'm not going to lie. Maybe I find something that it's just got to strike me, and it's got to be easy, and it's got to come like naturally. But right now, there's nothing that's naturally coming into my head, and I would love there to be, but I'm being perfectly blunt and honest, there's nothing there right now.
Well, I wouldn't mind a subscription service to pay for martial arts. I know one time I was doing Aikido, and I was just getting into Bitcoin, and I think I could have given him a Bitcoin, would have been worth $300. And, it's $6,000 now. It's pretty great for an Aikido teacher to make that much money. But of course, it was so early, we didn't do it and all those things. But I talked about it, and I could have paid my whole year's fee with that one thing. So maybe something like that on the smaller end. But I do agree, I'm not sure how the UFC or the larger end would get involved, other than Bitcoin companies and advertising and that. But anyone, that could be anyone. So
for sure. Again, we spoke about this briefly yesterday, and we touched on it about merchant adoption, and that needs to be aligned with more users, and everybody needs to come on board at the same time, which we're finding is quite difficult at this precise moment. But from again, it's something that we're all not struggling, but consistently looking for the perfect solution to onboard everyone on the planet. And
it might not be one solution. We might need many solutions, many different types of people, and that's why I always say we need people from different backgrounds, like yours and mine, and computer geeks and bankers and fighters. All these people, we need these different backgrounds to come together, because I can't speak to them, I can't convince them. They won't listen to me, but they'll listen to you, or they'll listen to Max. I mean, these different things. So
I agree. That's exactly what we need. But I think the ecosystem's growing, and that's everybody from all walks of life is involved in this space, and has seen that it's a progression and a natural progression for humanity.
So you of course have fought a lot, you've trained a lot, and that both gives you of course physical strength, but I would also say it gives you mental strength. Mm-hmm. So all these skills that you picked up in your fighting years, how do they help you in Bitcoin?
Good point. They help me with focus. I'm very driven. I always have been. I don't need to be motivated. I'm consistently madly in love with what I do. Otherwise, I won't get involved. Mm-hmm. And that's happened now. What Bitcoin's done for me, rather than where a lot of people ask, what is Bitcoin doing for me from a financial standpoint, I'm thinking if it wasn't for the blockchain ecosystem, BTC, ETH, and the rest of it, my intellectual journey hadn't really begun until I started exploring this space. Before that, it was more of a physical journey, and obviously through my martial arts, I gained a lot, which was focus and determination to never give up and succeed no matter what, no matter how hard the obstacles were and how hard the challenges were. I would always overcome those. And for me, life with challenges is very important. I think we all need that, and we have a challenging time ahead. And if we're gonna drive massive adoption. So,
well, that's what I like about Bitcoin. You see what you want to do, you think of how you can help, and then you just get involved and you start doing it. And there's no one that says you can't volunteer or that you should volunteer. You have to take it on yourself, and you have to be self-motivated. Like you said, like when I was doing my videos, no one's watching them, and I just kept doing them, and then eventually people watched them. And that I had to go through that valley to get there. So I think we all have to do that to find our place in Bitcoin and the world, greater, largely. Yeah.
Sure. I agree fully with you, and there's a classic example of yourself and your own personal journey of becoming extremely popular now. Where at one point there were 2 people watching your videos, and you were like, okay, right, 2 views, 3 views, 4 views, and you just kept going and going and going and never gave up. And it's only you're still growing, and it's only a matter of time before it completely blows up.
And I think that is quite a good analogy for the Bitcoin blockchain. Because it just keeps going and going and going. It adds a new block every 10 minutes, like a heartbeat. And it's dedicated on the pursuit of providing this censorship-resistant database. So that is quite nice that the honey badger of money is as dedicated as martial arts fighters.
There you go. I think it's great that we've all seen this connection, and we can pass that on to people watching these videos and being part of this ecosystem.
And Giorgio, where can people learn more about Anumis?
Anumis is you can see it online. I mean, anumis.co.uk would be the first point of call, but you're more than welcome to get in contact with me personally if you require any assistance, and through yourself at Mad Bitcoins, and give us a shout and come and see us. And
it's not just for England and the UK. Anyone that's starting a Bitcoin business right now that needs these business services, like you say, if they're above board, they KYC, this is the business side of things, they can use your services.
We're working with businesses in Korea and Singapore, all over the world.
All right. Thanks so much for the interview, Giorgio, and thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.